We have an average day of 0.64 NGD. I think a max day of about 1.5 NGD, which is consistent with your 2020 data. And actually, there's a max hour charge in there too, and that's 2 NGD.
Marvin, I believe you stepped out under option 2, under the conceptual capital cost. That buy-in you're asking is 2.7 there.
Yes, that would be improvements for their distribution system, installing a bigger pipe to the River Oaks distribution.
That's the line we talked about on north side.
Yes, about 10,000 feet of
Our cost is
distribution pipe.
2.7, and I believe theirs was
About $3 million.
$3 million.
But, so the 2.7 Fort Worth was only under the option where we were becoming permanent or whatever, a full-time.
That's correct. That's
Correct.
So under the, if we didn't do that, they're still gonna replace their pipe, we just wouldn't make it bigger?
correct. Right. They would be replacing it with another tank. Since it's cast iron, they're looking at replacing all of those anyways. And so,
The reason for the need to replace it bigger is because we wanted to get a full 2 million gallons a day out of it. And then they felt that they needed that once we've done the analysis of their system.
And do they know, I guess they know we're looking at the,
Yes,
and
they
they
will.
don't have any issues with being able to supply water.
No.
I knew we were gonna be a customer, they wouldn't go ahead and enlarge that pipe to get to the 2 million without us doing it.
if River Oaks switched to Fort Worth full time, they would have to enlarge that pipe. But as is, if it continues, my understanding is that it continues as an emergency agreement, they would not need to upsize that.
I would see that, but if we were decided to be their full-time customer, would that cost still be the same, or would they require us to still be enlarge the pipe on our end to the 16 or whatever the size was?
It would be that cost of $2.8 million. That's River Oaks' share of upsizing.
But what he's getting at is, if we eliminate our plan and say we're all in with you guys, it doesn't seem like they would charge us outside of the topic. It seems like that would be part of their cost of doing business.
Yeah.
They basically treat us as a developer. If we were coming to their system, wanting the full amount of water, just like if it was another developer, that they say to deliver the water to us at 2 million gallons a day. This is what we need, and this is what y'all have to do. Is to
Okay.
Now, one of the things I'd like to say is at this time is that with our current project, we did a reroute of that emergency line. We have 2 actual capabilities now. We have the ability just to put directly into the water, Fort Worth water into the system. That's the way it was prior to me getting here. I asked Bill to redesign to where we could actually take that water and flow it back to the tanks, the ground storage tanks. It's less stressful on the system, and it allows us to take water 24 hours a day. Before, we couldn't take, there was about 8 hours a day we couldn't take water because the pressure was too low from Fort Worth. So now we can take it, and we can keep our tower full constantly. Well, before we could, if it was just direct into the system, we couldn't, it was crossing your fingers and hope the tower stayed full.
There's another thing too, did you check in with our contract that's relatively new with the Texas, Tarrant Regional Water District?
This includes the current rates for water rights. And,
But the contract we're under, will that transfer over, or?
I don't know the answer to that, but this does include a 3% inflation every year. The 20-year life cycle cost does include 3%.
But you're saying if we shut off the tap to them,
Yeah.
buying water,
We're we'll have to somehow figure out what either the penalty is for it, or we would have to, find out how we get out of that contract to get on the full book.
Which we would still have some value there that we also didn't research is the value of the actual raw water rights. We own raw water rights and the like, so we don't know what that value is. We didn't get that far in depth in the study.
And those could be sold to another entity?
Yes.
What personnel changes would be if we went to strictly full water? How many of the water treatment plant operator personnel would we need to keep, if any?
That would probably.
Very uncomfortable, George.
Would probably be a question for,
Is it bigger than the need?
we have included, yes, plant salary and other plant expenditures, in the option 1 and option 3 costs that are not included in option 2. That includes, plant security and, basically their whole annual budget, that's not included in option 2.
In other words, somebody would still have to be there to monitor the water coming before.
And you still have to do the testing, and you still have to do reports.
It'd still be
Some-
filled
some
analytics,
pumps.
not like we bulldoze everything and
No.
we're out of it.
To give you just an example of that, current, on that option, it would be my, opinion to you, would it be a minimum of two operators, on that? And currently, right now, you have 3 operators, and we need a 4th. We asked for a 4th this year, and it got cut. Because we need it to do the fact of the maintenance. And beyond, more than so, the chief now was involved in a lot of the maintenance, but now the chief has to be involved in all the paperwork, because all the new rules that are coming down. We're experiencing a new lead and copper rule that's gonna be real significant in 2025. It's got a lot of work to go along with it. He loves paperwork.
So these customer cities, you know, like a Big Brook, and I don't know who all they are currently in Fort Worth, they have people on staff taking samples and
Yes,
all
sir.
that stuff?
Yes, sir, I tried to rob one from, Saginaw. I actually met him and interviewed him, and he went back and got a raise, I think, after that.
Can you interview me?
Thank you, Gordon. So this is a graphical representation of that last slide. The blue bar is the conceptual capital costs, that includes construction and engineering fees.
You're making these smaller and smaller. I've been able to work on those.
The blue bar is capital costs, and the green bar is the 20-year conceptual operation and maintenance. And so, as you can see, option 2, purchasing water, is the lowest capital cost. They all have comparable conceptual operation and maintenance costs, and the lowest plant alternative is option 1, alternative water, as I mentioned previously.
As you're looking at that, I'd like to add this to the statement, and it's no reflection on history or anyone in history, is he's projected that as a 20-year, because that's usually what you look at. After 20 year, you start looking at reevaluating the plant. Our plant, last big major overhaul was in 1993, and then the solids clarifier. So we're way past the, when we need to do it, and so we're basically bringing that for you here just as a workshop to see what our options are. And because we're all concerned, as y'all are, as what future mandates come down, and that's why we brought in all the professionals out there who could.
So we hired these folks to do this analysis, but is Bill still doing our normal work or not?
He's just doing what we have on the water bill.
Water Development Board, that's all he's doing right now. Bill has a connection with a lot of the water treatment plants that are up north of us, and he keeps us surprised of what's happening up there with the manganese, because we really experience super high levels of that when they do different things upstream from us. Benbrook, is that right, JP, when they open the 60s?
No, it's,
Bridgeport, I'm sorry. Bridgeport, they have a 60-inch, when they need to lower the lake, they open that up, and it transfers down through to the other lakes. And then our manganese goes through the roof, because they're actually pulling it off the bottom started out